A boomer couple went out for breakfast at a restaurant offering the seniors special. 2 eggs, bacon, hash browns, and toast for just $2.99. Sounds great, the wife said, but I don't want the eggs. The waiter frowned. Well, if you skip the eggs, it'll be $3.49 because you're ordering a la carte. The wife blinked. Wait! So I have to pay more for not taking the eggs? Yep, the waiter replied matter-of-factly. She thought for a moment, then smiled sweetly. Fine, I'll take the special. Great. How would you like your eggs? The waiter asked. Without missing a beat, she said, raw, in the shell. She took the eggs home and baked a cake. 1. Wife says to husband, let's try the missionary position. Husband, what's that? Wife, I stay here and you off to Africa. Irende, a little boy and a little girl went to the same school and became good friends. Every day they sat together at lunch and discovered they both always brought chicken sandwiches. This continued through 4th and 5th grade, until one day the boy noticed she wasn't eating chicken. Hey, how come you're not eating chicken anymore? Don't you like it? He asked. I love it, she said, but I have to stop. Why? She pointed to her lap and whispered, because I'm starting to grow little feathers down there. Surprised, he said, let me see. She hesitated, but then lifted her skirt. He took a look and said, whoa, you're right. Maybe you should stop eating chicken. He kept eating his chicken sandwiches, until one day he brought peanut butter instead. I have to stop eating chicken too, he told her. I think I'm starting to get feathers down there as well. Curious, she asked to see. So he pulled down his pants. She took one look and gasped. Oh no, it's too late for you. You've already got the neck and the gizzards. 3 dots. The bartender is extremely busy and looks tired. He eventually makes his way over to the bear. The bear immediately tells him, you look exhausted. Yeah, it's been a rough day, says the bartender. What are you drinking? I'll have a glass of, says the bear. He waits a painfully long moment before adding, Scotch. Why the long face? Asked the bartender. Don't you mean big paws? Asked the bear. Yeah, sorry. Sighs the bartender. Like I said, it's been a rough day. Nanga. The eaglets were preparing to leave the nest and fly out into the world when their grandfather happened by. He perched on the side of the nest to wish them well. The eaglets asked what grandfather liked to eat most. That'd have to be salmon, or maybe trout. Oh, one day soon you'll find out. A granddaughter asked, what do you usually eat? Rabbits are always good, and squirrels. You've seen squirrels. Sure, we see a lot running around on the branches. Keep an eye out, because those are tasty, said the grand old eagle. An eagle eye, a smart-mouthed grandson said, and was immediately smacked. The granddaughter asked, birds. What about birds? Do we eat those? Well, some sure. Seagulls, those are fine and pretty easy to catch, answered the great eagle. A grandson asked, there's a big white bird with long legs. It lives by rivers and streams, do you know? Do you eat those? I think you mean egrets, his grandfather asked. That's right, egrets. Have you eaten a lot of those? Egrets. I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. Oindu, a little girl, wants to take her dog for a walk, so she asks her mother whether she can take Lulu for a walk around the block. Her mother says, "No, sweetie, Lulu is in heat." "What does that mean?" asks the girl. "Why don't you go and ask your dad in the garage?" says the busy mother. So the girl goes to her father in the garage and asks, "I want to take Lulu for a walk, but Mom says she's in heat and to ask you about it." The father takes a rag, pours some petrol on it, and then rubs Lulu's backside with it to disguise the scent. "Now you can take her for a walk," he says. "Just don't let her off the leash, and she'll be fine." So the little girl skips happily away with Lula trotting along beside her. A few minutes later, she returns with an empty leash and no Lulu. Concerned, her dad asked, "Where's Lulu, sweetie?" "She ran out of gas halfway around the block," the girl replied. "So the neighbor's dog is giving her a push home." Order. A duck walks into a pub and orders a beer and a ham sandwich. The barman looks at him and says, "But you're a duck." "I see your eyes are working," replies the duck. "And you talk," exclaims the barman. "I see your ears are working," says the duck. "Now can I have my beer and my sandwich, please?" "Certainly," says the barman. "Sorry about that. It's just we don't get many ducks in this pub. What are you doing round this way?" "I'm working on the building site across the road," explains the duck. Then the duck drinks his beer, eats his sandwich and leaves. This continues for 2 weeks. Then one day the circus comes to town. The ringleader of the circus comes into the pub and the barman says to him, "You're with the circus, aren't you? I know this duck that would be just brilliant in your circus," he talks. "Drinks beer and everything." "Sounds marvelous," says the ringleader. "Get him to give me a call." So the next day when the duck comes into the pub, the barman says, "Hey, Mr. Duck, I reckon I can line you up with a top job paying really good money." "Yeah?" "Logically," says the duck. "Sounds great. Where is it?" "At the circus," says the barman. "The circus?" the duck inquires. "That's right," Zarenia replies the barman. "The circus?" the duck asks again. "Yes," says the barman. "That place with the big tent?" the duck inquires. "Yeah," the barman replies. "With all the animals?" the duck questioned. "Of course," the barman replies. "With the big canvas roof with the hole in the middle?" asked the duck. "That's right," says the barman. The duck looks confused. What the heck would they want with plasterer? 7 dots. 2 crocodiles were sitting at the side of the river. After a few hours just lying about, the smaller one turned to the bigger one and said, "I can't understand how you can be so much bigger than me. We're the same age. We were the same size as kids. I just don't get it." "Well," said the big croc, "what have you been eating?" "Well, mostly politicians that come here with their mistresses, same as you," replied the small croc. "Well, where do you catch them?" "On the other side of the river near the car park." "Same here." "Tell me your method." "How do you catch them?" asked the big croc. "Well, I crawl up under one of their big Lexus, BMW or Mercedes cars and wait for one to unlock the car door. Then I jump out, grab them by the leg, shake the cap out of them and eat 'em." "Ah," says the big crocodile, "I think I see your problem. You're not getting any real nourishment. See, by the time you finish shaking the chia sap out of a politician, there's nothing much left but an hole with a briefcase." Yette. So a rabbit is enjoying some Earl Grey in his garden when his friend arrives. His friend says, "Please come back to us." The rabbit, formerly Jewish, says, "No, sorry, I don't believe anymore." His friend grabs him by one arm and tugs, saying, "Come with me, come on. You have to join us down at the synagogue. You used to lead us, and we miss you." Almost dropping his cup due to the tugging, the rabbit rights himself and says, "You almost made me break my favorite cup. Please leave." His friend angrily storms off. The rabbit's wife comes out and says, "What was that about?" The rabbit says, "My friend wanted me to lead the community at the synagogue again, but I would have had to drop the tea." 9 dots. A bear, a moose, a fox, a wolf, and a snail were playing cards around a table. Suddenly, the bear let out a faint roar and said, "Guys, I'm hungry. Could someone go buy some chocolate or whatever?" The moose shook his head and nodded towards the fox, who irritatingly slammed his little paw on the table and muttered, "Why me? Why can't the wolf do it?" But the snail bravely interrupted the conversation before it got out of hand. Guys, there's no reason to fight. I'll go." The bear smiled a little and handed the snail a few rolled-up dollars from his pockets. "Thanks, man. I appreciate it. While you're at it, buy something to drink, will you?" The snail winked, grabbed the money, and briskly started to make his way out the door. Half an hour went by. An hour and a half. Almost 2 hours. At last, the bear snapped, dropped his cards to the floor, and yelled, "Hey, you know what? I think the little bastard took the money and just left." A small yet fierce scream then came from near the door. "If you're going to start insulting me, I'm not leaving at all." But a man walks into an antique store and starts looking around. Suddenly, he gazes upon the most stunning bronze statue of a Siamese cat. He asks the store owner how much he wants for the statue. The store owner replies, "It's $200 for the statue and $2,000 for the story that goes with it." The man replies, "I really don't care about the story, but I do want the statue." As the man is paying for the statue, the shop owner says, "All right, but I guarantee you will be back for the story." The man walks out of the shop and starts down the street carrying the cat statue. When he comes to the crosswalk, he happens to glance behind him and sees 3 or 4 cats sitting about 10 feet away, looking at him. He shrugs it off and crosses when the light changes. He goes several more blocks and, at another crosswalk, looks behind himself again. This time, there are about 30 cats sitting there looking at him. The man starts to get a little nervous and picks up his pace when the light changes. By the time the man reaches the pier at the end of the street, he has now been running for several blocks. He was running because every time he turned around, there were more and more cats behind him. He looked like the Pied Piper. When he got to the end of the pier, he turned around once more and saw at least 2,000 cats sitting there looking at him. There were so many cats that there was no way to get off the pier without going through them. And he knew there was no way he was going to do that. In a panic, he turned toward the water and heaved the statue as far as he could. Amazingly, all of the cats ran right past him and jumped in the water after the statue and never came out. The man, still shaking from his ordeal, immediately started running back to the shop. As he burst through the door, The shop owner saw him and said, "I told you that you would be back for the story." "To heck with the story," gasps the man. "Do you have a statue of a politician?"